influencing popular culture, politics, and everything in between. The local station takes you ringside as we discuss the crazy world that is professional wrestling. This is Going Ringside with The Local Station.
Hello there, and welcome to Going Ringside. I'm your host, Scott Johnson. So glad you could be with us. This is a special episode, a pretty serious one, and it involves a serious stalking case for a man who was arrested for allegedly stalking Liv Morgan. We'll get to that in just a minute. Before we do, if you could put it on the screen, we need your help. Can you go to our YouTube channel? If you're not watching this, maybe right now on our YouTube channel, please click subscribe at Going Ringside. We need your help. It's a brand new channel. We're trying to grow this show for you to keep bringing you these big stories and the biggest celebrity interviews in the world every single week. So please give us a subscribe if you could. Now let's get to the big news that's going on, and it involves Liv Morgan's scary, scary story. Let's bring it up and let's talk about it. Let me move this over here. Because you see that man, that's a mugshot for a man named Sean Chan, who has been arrested. He's facing both state and federal charges for stalking of Liv Morgan and a few other charges as well. And I want to kind of talk to you about what happened in this case a little later on in the show. Retired police detective down here in Florida, Tom Hackne, will join us to help us understand this case a little better. Then friend of the show, Desiree Josen with the Chutes and Ladders podcast, will join us to talk a little about some of the dangers these wrestling stars, particularly on the female side, go through. So I'm talking about what happened in this case. I have the state charging documents against Chan. I have the federal indictment here against Chan, and we're going to talk. I want to start with the state complaint. So originally, Chan was charged with something that didn't sound that serious. The charge was burglary of an unoccupied dwelling unarmed. But things kind of got dicey after that. So let me start what happened. So it actually started when Liv Morgan's mom went to her house. Liv is on the road, you know what she does. Her real name is Gianna Daddio. Liv Morgan's mom comes to her house to pick up mail and notices something, and let me read you what the first investigative report says. Stated their mom took the packages inside, these are what she found on the porch, and placed the note on the table of the porch because she found a note there. She came back to the note and read it. Liv's mom described the note as, quote, disturbing. She advised the letter was made out to her daughter, although it mentioned several other wrestlers in the body. This prompted a review of the video surveillance from the location and the surrounding location. So what happens? So eventually Robert Fuller, the head of security for WWE, is alerted to this. And so he contacts police. Police get involved. And they eventually find, they review this note, and they find some surveillance video. I'll get to the surveillance video in just a minute, but I want to read you the contents of this note, at least what's publicly disclosable. It's a little different, so I want to start with how it read in the original report made by the state. Liv, Gianna, it's me, Sean, the guy you all hang out with on FF2 online, the one who called you Bubble, and also the one that called you all disrespected, exploited, and invaded my privacy on a daily basis, all the way in Canada. I came here to pay just a friendly visit, nothing more. Yet I'm the one who looks like a stalker thanks to all of you. So he, according to this report, left Canada, flew to Orlando, and along the way said he was going to stay at the WWE Performance Center. So I want to read you the rest of this note that the federal charging documents say. He says, you've been trying to contact me, or should I say reach out to me when I'm absent from that game. So it's a game? So who's the stalker, huh? I never said and did anything bad for over 10 years, yet you all dared hating on me for no reason. I came here to pay just a friendly visit, nothing more, yet I'm the one who looks like a stalker thanks to all of you. And you all think I'm going to have empathy, sympathy, and care about any of you anymore? I will start talking and doing whatever I want despite all your shush finger faces that you all make. Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that I was here. So it sounds like this was some video game thing that he was on, and according to these reports, say that he believed Liv Morgan was communicating with him. Liv Morgan, in this report, says, I have no idea who this man is. It gets creepy. So after this happened, on June 3rd, the federal report says Chan entered an event at the Performance Center where the victim makes appearances. June 3rd would have been a night they shoot NXT because that would have been a Tuesday. Security personnel for the sports entertainment company recognized Chan as the person from the video footage provided. Chan was arrested by Orange County deputies on state charges. Once taken into custody, 2 bottles of liquid with Chinese writing on them were located in Chan's possession. When asked what the liquids were, Chan stated they were medications, one of which was to treat injuries such as bleeding. Chan was also in possession of a Canadian passport in his name, which was issued May 26, 2025, which is the same day he traveled to Orlando. Now, she was out of town, so this is all scary. But what's more scary is I want you to widen out the shot. The other part of this investigation, because as we say, they went to the house, look what these images in the federal charging documents show. So the federal charging documents say when he went to the house, he found this gun on the porch. So according to these documents, he did not bring it, but he found this gun on the porch. It looks like it was some sort of BB or pellet gun, not a high-powered rifle, but it certainly looks scary. And then at some point, he picked it up and was walking around with it. So I want to find you the excerpt where it talks about him going to the property and what it says there. Okay, so he gets there, and this is important. It says in these documents, a vehicle dropped him off at her gated community. At this point, it doesn't clarify what that vehicle was. I'm guessing an Uber or a Lyft or some sort of ride-sharing vehicle. We're hoping, because if not, it would imply someone might knew who he was and what he was doing there. But this is what it reads. Chan approached the residence from the south through the yard instead of using the driveway. Chan then proceeded to walk around the property twice, at one point attempting to gain access to a side door of a detached pole barn. Chan walked onto the front porch of the residence and reached down around the doormat area possibly. I am aware that some people leave spare keys under their doormats, so Chan may have been attempting to locate a key to the residence. Chan also touched around the bottom of the front door, swiped the locking mechanism on the door several times with his hand, grabbed the front door handle, and leaned into the door, attempting to open it. The video also shows Chan retrieving that long air rifle pellet gun from the front porch wall that's right there, which the victim had left outside the residence. The air rifle, a Sig Sauer MCX .177 air rifle, capable of firing metal pellets at 600 feet per second. Chan can be seen sitting on the front porch with a pellet gun before standing and walking to the front door as pictured below. And then it talks about the letter he left there. All of this is scary stuff. Scary stuff. Chan has now been charged, as I said, on the state level of the burglary charge, but now because of all this, because he flew from Canada to Orlando, the feds have got involved. He has been federally indicted and is now facing a charge of interstate stalking. Both serious, serious crimes. So I wanted to bring in 2 people. Right now, we're going to start with Tom Hackne. A little later on, Desiree Joseph will kind of analyze the wrestling aspect of this and what that industry is like. But I want to start with Tom. Tom is a veteran homicide detective in Florida. He has handled countless of serious cases in Florida, hundreds if not thousands over the decades. He's retired now. But I wanted to bring him in to help us analyze this scary case. Here is retired police detective Tom Hackne. Well, we're joined right now by Tom Hackne, a retired police detective, did a lot of homicides, a lot of stalking cases down here in Florida. Tom, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely, Scott.
Tom, when we got on the call here, first thing you said that this was a scary one.
Yeah, this is no joke. It's really frightening when on the same day that this man got the passport, he's on a plane, he's headed south. He's trying to get in her house, and he gets past a guard gate, gets to her house, spends a couple hours on her porch, arms himself with albeit a BB gun. But that the whole thing with this is just frightening, and the fact that how long he's there and what he's doing it just adds to it.
I want to back up to the beginning of what these allegations, both federal and local, say. That he went to the limit of starting in Canada, traveling down to Florida, putting up this whole story, going to her house. You've dealt with hundreds, if not thousands, of homicide cases, but this kind of stands out, does it not?
It really does, because as I was looking through this information, it really took me back to the thoughts of 1989 with Rebecca Schaefer, and
Oh,
she
tell
had
me
a
what that
stalker.
case was.
Rebecca Schaefer was the actress in Los Angeles. She was on a sitcom and had been stalked for actually a couple of years by a man. And he shows up at her front door. She's home and she actually answers the door. He's armed and he shoots and kills her right there in her doorway. But a lot of these same things where he traveled to Los Angeles to see her and was infatuated with her. And here's somebody who's, as I look through this, it's really frightening, the part of I'm going to show you. You're the one who's wronged me, and I'm going to travel thousands of miles to leave you a note, and pushing on doors to get in. It's it's frightening for her, I'm positive, and just for anybody that's in the public eye has to see this and cringe a little bit, but because of that.
I want to get your perspective. You've dealt with a lot of stalking cases over the years. Um, so he writes this stuff that he alleges that they knew each other online. Most people that I've seen online suspect maybe he was catfished or an impersonator, pretending to be her online. And he developed this whole, according to these reports in his head, that they had some sort of online relationship. She says she didn't even know this guy. Talk to me about this dynamic of online where maybe you and I would think I would never fall for that. Some people, it's
Yeah,
different.
it truly is, and you and I may look through the lenses of a rational person at this and think, God, there's no way that I would even believe that. But unfortunately, a lot of these men and women who have this are 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 not mentally well, who are experiencing various different mental issues and mental problems, and it's different. They look at it differently than what somebody who isn't going through mental problems does, and that it leads to this kind of behavior, this stalking behavior, this completely erratic. I'm going to show you. And that's the frightening part about it, is you don't know at to what limit he's capable of. Certainly, getting a passport, buying an airline ticket, probably hundreds to maybe even thousands of dollars worth of airline tickets to fly to Florida. This massive ruse about he's going to go stay at the WW, all these lies that he comes up with, and then he sits there for a couple hours on her front porch waiting. So she's just lucky that she didn't come home. And then reading through some of the stuff where her mom checks her residence, mom's probably pretty lucky too that she didn't show up.
Yeah, I mean, if mom hadn't seen that note, I mean, we don't know where we'd be at this point. I want to talk to you about the WWE security here. She, according to these reports, reported this to WWE security, who immediately went to police. That kind of shows that sometimes private employers work with police agencies, particularly when they're dealing with high-profile people.
Yeah, I'm happy to see that it worked out well, at least from the side after this happened, because not only did Pasco County Sheriff's Office get involved, but because of that interstate and really foreign from Canada to U.S. nature, FBI got involved, and both of them really took a big part of this.
And they frankly didn't know who this guy was. Like, it might have been easy if he was a local guy. They might have an idea who he is. He's from Canada.
Yeah, and that it's the delusion of something that's not there. She's wronged me. We've had this relationship. She's talked to me. She knows who I am. You read the affidavits, and he even writes in the note, "I'm the guy that." And as he's leaving those notes for her, I'm sure she has absolutely zero clue who it is. And those folks like that, eh, who are in the public eye, who are celebrities, I'm have talked to several of them at different times about things like this, just because of the curious nature of law enforcement that I had, and when I would have interactions with them, they worry with that, and people believe that they know them. They know them from their on-screen personas, which, they're actors. They're roles that they're playing, and much the same thing here with these are public figures who have a persona, have a different name, and they build themselves as one thing, but they're real people. They're real people with real lives and real feelings, and some of that feelings can be fear when these things happen, and it's terrifying. So it's really good to see that they have an active security department that works with their employees to put them some safety. These people come across as larger than life, and that can be dangerous from a situation like this.
Tom, I want to talk to you about the upgrading of charges here. So I'm looking at the original complaint affidavit out of Pasco County. It says that it was burglary in an unoccupied dwelling unarmed, which to me doesn't sound like that big of a deal. Then the feds get involved. I'm looking at the indictment from the grand jury. It's upgraded to interstate stalking. Can you talk to me about the dynamics of how this worked its way from a looks like a slap on the wrist type crime at the local level to much more serious at the federal level?
Yeah, so the burglary portion of it is, that's a serious state crime. That's a felony and can wind him up in state prison.
So he would have gone to jail. He could have
yeah,
very well gone to jail.
That's a felony, so that's more than a year, the fact that it's unarmed and it's unoccupied are different variations of that in here in the state of Florida. But when you bring in the FBI component from the federal standpoint, they have different charges that they can use, and here's the one that they chose because he came from another country, basically traveled over at least all the other states to get to Florida in the air, but that's part of that interstate travel that's mentioned in there for the stalking and the fear component. Stalking has a major, both federal and state, a major component of fear, that the person is placed in fear. And this certainly rings all those bells because it's frightening to read. And when you think about her and what she had to learn, and all this is going on while she's not home, and this guy's sitting on her front porch. That's fear. That's fear with a capital F right there, Scott.
I don't want to get too much into an immigration discussion, but I do want to point out the fact that he's not an American citizen.
Right.
He's now facing federal charges in the United States. How does that process work?
Well, he's got to answer for his violation of both state and federal charges. The prosecutor, the federal prosecutor, and the state prosecutor would get together and really decide which charges would be most appropriate and best. This isn't typically something that would be an automatic deportation. He's going to have to answer here in the United States for the crimes that he committed on our soil. And then when that's completed, whatever sentence he may get, that's when they would deport him and send him back to Canada. But he's going to have to show some time here.
There is one part of this, and I'm trying to find the exact part that kind of disturbed me. There was some surveillance video that showed he was dropped off in a vehicle. That could have very well been an Uber. Would police have looked at if he was with someone or if he was staying with someone?
I'm sure they did. That was a question that I had, but you make an assumption there that it's probably an Uber or some kind of ride share. But that would be easy for investigators to document.
So they'd be able to determine who was dropping him off.
Yeah. Okay. And if as an investigator, if I was able to say yes, this was prove that it was through the app and everything was up and up with that, I wouldn't have to go down the road of figuring out maybe who he was with. But if that was something that wasn't there, that hey, he just was dropped off and none of the rideshare programs showed a ride dropping off at that location, yeah, now we've got a different road to go down because I'm going to look for somebody who would be an accomplice or somebody accessory after the fact or somebody in a conspiracy to commit those crimes ahead of time. So there could be more, I would think, based on the fullness of that investigation that probably had been dissolved before that. So
one thing that's been brought up is security of these celebrities. Talk to me about that dynamic for a celebrity. It is not, we see so many times where they're on video and security is stopping someone and maybe they seem rude or whatever. They have legitimate concerns for their own safety in public.
Yeah, they certainly do. And that's just in public. So, you see the paparazzi who basically hound these men and women who are celebs in California when they go out to eat, and other places, New York, and really don't give them a whole lot of room to do anything because they're on a public sidewalk and there's no expectation of privacy in public, and all these different things. And you see them really when they're with their families, and then you add this aspect of their home. Your home is a place that you should be safe and secure from that. And in
And this was a gated community.
yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, had he been in a car and gone through, there would have been some questioning, some vetting of who he was. But when he's on foot, maybe he hopped a fence, maybe those guard gates typically have somebody there.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking of this in real time. If he had an Uber, will police be looking at how he got access to the neighborhood?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt, to try to figure out. It sounds like he was dropped off outside the guard gate, and then somehow,
that's right. I just couldn't remember off the top of my head. Yeah.
Yeah. He surreptitiously got around. If you're in a car, the guard gate's going to stop you. The arm will go down. You have to answer why you're there. But if you go 1,000 yards down the thing, hop a fence, then you're in that neighborhood, and he obviously knew where she lived. And that's the other part of the celebrity thing is all that information. I think back to the 70s of the maps to the stars house, and now it's a click away.
Anyone can get it.
And it truly it's sad and it's frightening, and I'm just happy that this didn't have worse of a turnout than it did, and that they got him before something bad happened. But that's a cautionary tale. It certainly is.
Final question. I just looked at the court records. Look like, at least at last check on the local level, he has a public defender. It's possible he could get a better lawyer. I mean, do you suspect a mental health defense would be at play here, maybe?
It's possible. An insanity plea, they're very rare, and there's a lot of T's to cross and I's to dot to be able to qualify for that. So, that's something that would be evaluated from both sides, both from the prosecution and the defense. If the defense raises it, then they're going to have to be able to substantiate that with ample testing, and then that has to be qualified from the prosecution side. And it's not as simple as it sounds, and it's not much like it is on TV in real life and real prosecutions. So it's possible, but arguably that somebody who would do that and think these things is probably not as mentally stable as you or I.
Well, Tom Hackney, retired police detective down here in Florida. Tom, thanks for joining us today.
Anytime, Scott. Thanks.
And now we're going to bring in friend of the show with the Chutes and Ladders podcast, Desiree Josen, with us. Desiree, thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
And Desiree, this is scary stuff. Guy, according to these arrest records, flies from Canada all the way to Orlando. Like, that's a lot of effort for this. That's scary.
It's insane to think that there are people crazy enough out there, but it is.
So what do you think about the fact that he said he lived at, or I don't know, he was staying at the entertainment complex down there in Orlando? I mean, this guy's so in his mind, according to these arrest dockets, affiliated in his mind with WWE. It's scary.
Right. I mean, in our fantasies, yes, we would love to be associated, but not in this way. And the fact that he, as soon as he got his passport, immediately went down there and said, I'm going to be staying at the Performance Center, that's completely untrue. And it's just scary to think that he was probably believing all of this too.
So I wanted to chat with you about security of the stars, particularly the female stars. I mean, the guys got it too, but I think this is more, really scary for these female stars. They have to live in this bubble where everyone knows them. And we just had a retired detective. If you want to find out where they're at, you probably can in this internet world. That's scary.
Right. And just being a woman in front of a camera in the public, that's already scary enough because you're going to get people like this. But I think people forget that these stars are actual humans and people too, and they need their privacy and boundaries. And unfortunately, that's not the case.
Are you surprised by this when you go through online fandom and you see, I mean, the women particularly, you see the comments?
It's nonstop, and I know it's a given when you're in the public eye.
Sure. I mean, it's you can't really blame it. They are public figures,
Right.
But eventually it goes beyond online commenting and gets scary.
But it's the fact that where they live and where they're at, it's public information. You can Google them and find their real name and find information on them and on top of their family, and then them coming to their house or
Yeah.
just seeing them in public and wanting to approach them. It's a little scary.
And you were telling me there have been others. I mean, Liv's not the first.
No, and this is, I believe, Liv's third
Oh,
issue with
really?
a stalker.
Okay.
Yeah. And just last year, Rhea Ripley, who is based in Orlando and married to Buddy
Mhm.
Matthews, when they were on their honeymoon in Australia, they saw at their Ring camera a girl that was there knocking on their door, smiling into their camera. And then who was it just recently? Roxanne Perez had someone release her address on social media and basically threaten her by a countdown of on this day, something's going to happen.
I have been fascinated since I got into this world. I like wrestling. I'm a wrestling fan. How serious some people take it. I just don't get it. Like they either love or hate these people so much. Like I don't get that. I don't get that you can't separate it.
And I don't understand that either. For me, being a fan and wanting to believe these characters, never once in my head have I hated someone enough or loved someone enough to stalk them or say I need to be in their presence or need to touch them or anything. So there are people that truly believe that they believe whatever's in their head.
What do you think about I mean, do you think that fans should hold stars to account, like if they're not friendly outside? Because I don't think I would be. Like, if people are coming up on you like that, I mean, I deal with it on a tiny scale, but not to the level they do, not with obsessed fans.
I feel like there's a time and place, and I feel like when you're at events and they're there, that's your time to walk up and approach them or have that interaction. But I feel like when you're outside of the event, especially at hotels, they're traveling, especially when they're by themselves or with their family, I feel like there should be a boundary of, you know, you could see them from far away, acknowledge them, but don't approach unless you have that permission.
So I was interested in one thing in this report that it said she reported to the head of WWE security, and that security person obviously did it. I mean, I
Mhm.
guess I'm not surprised. I mean, their security is probably like legit security, not just a guy who guards the door, but like they know they've got to, protect their talent.
Absolutely. And because they know of these kind of cases where they can actually do physical harm to not just one, but to all of them. So it only makes sense for them to have top-notch security everywhere.
So I've seen a lot of people online think this guy was catfished. So I don't know if you've seen it. I haven't had a chance to show you all the documents, but he like posted some stuff like he thought, or at least according to this quote, the note that he left on her door was that they interact on some sort of online platform. Liv saying, I have no idea who this man is. Um, could you see fans being catfished out there by other fans? I mean,
Absolutely.
because frankly, everywhere you look, there are parody accounts of these people, and
Well,
some
and
look legit.
Yeah, some are fan sites and clearly are labeled fan sites. And then there are some that are trying to be that person. And that's full of scams for whatever reason, money, attention, who knows. But I would feel like you would have to have some kind of sense to be like, this isn't a real person. Liv Morgan is really in love with me and I'm going to come down there and see her. I don't know.
You'd think that the guy would know. You'd think he'd know. Just a thought.
I mean, I have my own wrestling crushes, but in my
Sure.
head, I know that's not real.
Yeah. Well, Desiree Josen, thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here next time.
Thank you.
So that's where we're at on this case right now. I appreciate Desiree and Tom for joining us to help us look at it, and we, of course, will continue to follow it. I am reaching out to the public defender's office as best as I can find based on the charging document so far. He has been assigned a public defender. I will reach out to the public defender. If we do hear anything back, we, of course, will bring it to you on our platforms, the Going Ringside YouTube channel, of course, as well as the Going Ringside TikTok and Instagram channels and our homepage at news4jax.com. But we appreciate you for joining us on this special episode of Going Ringside, a scary one. We'll be back later this week with more of our celebrity interviews. We'll get back to that. But thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Scott Johnson. We'll see you back here next time.
This has been Going Ringside with The Local Station, brought to you every Wednesday on your favorite podcast player, on News4 Jax Plus, as well as the News4 Jax YouTube channel.